Alright, welcome back to another Camel's Hump Middle School video tutorial. In today's episode, I'm going to be working with 5th graders and getting them squared away to get their jigsaw puzzles laser cut by our boss laser. First thing they're going to need to do is navigate themselves to the desktop, and from the desktop they're going to be looking for this icon over here. It's called RDWorks V8. On most of the computers it's going to be a red stripe and a black stripe. On a couple of our computers it's going to be kind of a red and black, almost target looking icon, but it's still going to say RDWorks V8. So the first thing you're going to want to do is double click that to open up our laser software. Now, as discussed in class, there's going to be several options for you to use for your jigsaw puzzle, the cuts, the shape of your cuts. But there's a couple critical pieces we need to do before we proceed with anything. The first is we need to save this file. We need to establish your file as one in and amongst all the other 5th grade files. So follow my mouse here. We're going to come up to File. We're going to come down to Save As. When Save As comes up, you're going to have this dialog box. Now, it might appear really one of any number of places, but what you're going to need to do is come up here to this drop-down menu, open that up, and start by clicking the CHMS Tech Ed folder. Just click that. So from here, things start to look a little bit more familiar. We're going to double-click on 5th grade, and then double-click on your team, Sam and Polaris. And then which trimester are we? We are trimester 2. Double click on trimester 2. And then I'm going to come in here and I'm going to double click on Jigsaw Cuts. And I'm going to drop off my file, and I'm going to name my file my last name .jigsaw. So jigsaw is one word. Your last name .jigsaw is what this file needs to be. I'm going to click Save. Okay, now that's done. Great. Now it's time to set up our page. Okay, and I've talked about this in class, but here's the quick refresher. The graph paper piece that you're seeing here is my work table. I need that work table to be the identical size as the space inside of my frame on my puzzle backer. Now you're going to know this size because you measured it after you glued all of your 4 border pieces on. It's going to be somewhere around 150 wide by 150 tall. Some of you, it's going to be 140 by 140. Some of you, it's going to be 153 by 153. Everyone's going to be unique. The important piece is that both of these numbers are the same. Okay, now I understand on your puzzle pieces, one of these numbers might be a little bit bigger than the other one, like 143 by 150. You need to choose the smallest of the two numbers and use that as both dimensions. So, say this is 143 by 150. What I'm going to do is I'm going to say it's 143 by 143. Okay, now here are the clicks we need to make. We need to come up here and click on Config. Come down to Page Setting. You're going to see a width and a height here. Both of those need to be the same number, and it's going to be, again, the smallest number of your dimensions. So I'm going to type 143, 143. Now these measurements really do matter, so if you're unsure about what you're doing, please ask. Then I'm going to click OK. Now I'm all set. So this represents my jigsaw puzzle, right? The picture that we've laminated onto the piece of wood, this is it right here. Now we need to cut it up. So we're going to import a cut file, and I've labeled 3 of them for you to use. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come up here to the Import button. I'm going to click it, and I am going to drop this menu down, come back to CHMS Tech Ed. I'm going to double click 5th grade, and they're waiting for me right here. So I've gone over these in class, but you need to decide whether or not you want a football-shaped puzzle joint, or a heart-shaped puzzle joint, or a traditional shaped puzzle joint. This is entirely your choice. For me, I'm going to go with the traditional. So I'm going to double click this. Now, what I've done is it's imported, but I want you to zoom out with me. You see how it doesn't fill up your entire puzzle here? So we need to make it fill that whole area up. Now the first thing we need to do though is each individual line here is acting as its own object, and I've talked about this in class, so we need to fix this. So the first thing we need to do, just like in Tinkercad, is we need to tell this that, hey, you're one big thing, so we're going to group it. So I'm going to start by dragging a square, just left click and drag, and selecting this whole item, coming up here to this colorful button right here called group, and I'm going to single click it. So now I can move this thing around as one object. Okay, that's an important step. You're going to know if you haven't done that when you try to move things around. Next, I'm going to select the object, and I'm going to come up here, and I'm going to send it to the top left corner. You see how I have all these choices up here? So I'm going to send it to the top left. Next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to grab this corner, and I'm going to drag it all the way down to the bottom corner. Now, I want the outline of my cut to lay right on the edge of my work area. Okay, you can zoom in to make sure you're right about there. This is fine. Okay, that's about where I want to be. Next thing I want to do is I want to come over here and I want to double click this red layer right here. If this red layer might be a blue layer, either way, double click this. You want to make sure the following statements are true. Okay? You want the minimum and the maximum power to be labeled as 85 all the way throughout. And then you want the speed to be labeled as 10. Okay? 10 for speed, 85 for power. This line should say cut. If this line says scan, change it to cut. Blowing is yes. Output is yes. Okay? Leave all of these alone down here. Click OK. You should have one line right here. If you have more than one line, we have something that we need to figure out and call me over. One line. Okay. Now, next thing I want you to do is come up here and click this computer screen. Okay? This is going to be your preview button. Don't zoom in or zoom out when you're on this page. There's a big hint. All right, so next thing I want to do is I can take my simulation speed. I'm going to slow it down to around 5. Okay? And I'm going to click simulate. Now what this is showing me is the path that the laser is going to follow as it's cutting out my puzzle pieces. And you can see that it's taking kind of a roundabout route around my puzzle, but believe it or not, this is the most efficient path for it to travel as it's cutting out your puzzle pieces, and you can just follow it along. What we're looking for here is we want to make sure that it hits all of the lines. Okay, you're going to see them turn kind of a reddish color after it goes over them. So watch this whole simulation. Make sure it goes through all of the different lines. And once that's done, you're about ready to call me over. And I can pull the file for you and take it to the laser. Now, the important piece that we need to remember, though, is that it was saved at the very beginning with your name up here. So go ahead right now. It's a great time to click this little disk button right here. Save it. Okay, make sure that's an updated save. And then once your puzzle looks like this, call me over. And we'll have a quick conversation. We're going to make sure that you are ready to go to the laser. And then at that point, you're about where you need to be. Thanks so much for listening. Hope this was helpful.